Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Wader. That's Austin Hill. Very early happy Thanksgiving to y'all, of course, with it being tomorrow. So happy Thanksgiving to you all that are taking the time to watch this one. And if you're taking time to watch this one, you should definitely take the time to watch our college football episode. So much happened this past weekend that set up so many different scenarios there. About a million teams are still alive for the Big 12 championship. A whole bunch of three-loss teams now that could be in the playoff, which is a wholly different discussion that we have in that episode. So a lot to talk about from this past weekend in college football. Make sure and go give that episode a watch or listen, depending on how you are tuning into our podcast. But nonetheless, it's our NFL episode. And boy, oh boy, Austin, this past Sunday was some interesting action in the NFL, to say the least. So before we get into anything else in the NFL, let's talk about our biggest winners and losers from this past Sunday's action. What you got for your biggest loser from this past Sunday?
I'm going to go with the New York Giants. Look, we already know they're not a good team, but look, they bench and then release Daniel Jones. And then they go out and just play maybe even worse than they were playing with Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors is already frustrated, and he's not even played a full season for the Giants yet. Just a lot of colossal failures that I think have led to this organization stalling out and ending up where they are right now.
Yeah, there could be another obvious one to go with, but I'm actually going to go with the Arizona Cardinals because this weekend was a big one for them. Had they beaten the Seahawks, every other team in the division would have lost. They would all been 5-6, and you would have been sitting at 7-4 with a two-game lead in this division, and you basically lay an egg against the Seattle Seahawks on the road. So you had a big chance to take control of the division. Now, instead of being out in front of it for good, you still got plenty of competition to work with, and this division's far from wrapped up there. But now let's talk about the biggest winners from this past Sunday, Austin. What's your biggest winner?
I like the Miami Dolphins this week. I know they're playing against the Patriots, but finally, this offense is looking itself. Tua's playing fantastic football, and the Dolphins are winning football games. Look, the division's probably out of the question at this point, but they're certainly making a push for what could be a wild card berth if they can keep winning like this and keep putting up the big numbers. But this is what we expected out of this team coming into the season. And when Tua is healthy, this is such a difficult offense to stop. It's just a wonder if they can keep him healthy and keep on winning and get into those playoffs.
I mean, that's the big question there. My biggest winner, I'll go with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has entered himself into the MVP conversation fully, to say the least, with his performance on Sunday Night Football. Speaking of biggest loser, you got when you talked about the Giants, there's another reason why watching Saquon dominate for your division rival on national television for everyone to see. And boy, oh boy, it was a rough scenario to say the least for the Giants. And speaking of stuff with the Giants, let's now dive into the big news that broke this morning with the Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. You wondered about where Daniel Jones was going to go for his next stop. You knew some team was going to give him a chance. It was who it was going to be. And once clearing waivers, he plans to sign with the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North. Of course, this is a bit of an interesting one. You wonder when Minnesota's sitting at 9-2, but Sam Darnold's a little banged up from an injury he got in the Bears game. Plus, also, it's not bad sitting at 9-2. You have a lot of leeway you could go with quarterbacks, so you could definitely try them both now. But your thoughts on this signing for Minnesota?
I like this move. It made a lot of sense to me because, look, Darnold's been pretty good, but as of late, he had started to struggle. But then coming into this Bears game, he actually had a really good game against the Bears, which I thought might push Daniel Jones away because I figure he's probably looking for an opportunity to join one of these contenders to be a starter. But like you said, a little bit banged up now. Certainly have the chance to at least try him out in the offense. And worst case scenario, he'd be a much better backup quarterback, more starting experience, more playtime experience than the current backup. So I like this signing personally. It's not anything earth shattering, but this is a team and a move that really he makes sense for.
Yeah, I think so. And plus, similar to the whole Baker Mayfield scenario when he signed with the Rams, you've got the opportunity to make some noise, to get a team to give you a chance in the offseason to sign you as a starter. It worked out for Baker Mayfield. We'll see what it can do for Daniel Jones. They still got a bit of ways to go in Minnesota there. But that was the big news coming out from the NFL this morning. We're now going to talk about this past weekend. Normally, we only talk about one or two games, but this noon slate, Austin, was pure and utter chaos in the NFL. And let's start with the biggest stunner of them all, the Tennessee Titans going into Houston and taking down the Texans 32-27. Titans' third win of the year. They're sitting at 3-8. Houston now drops to 7-5 on the year. Fortunately for Houston, the next closest team is the Indianapolis Colts at 5-7. But you just wonder for the Texans, I mean, as a contender, I mean, some things are not going well in Houston this second year for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, they've got to figure some stuff out. It just seems like they're making a lot of mistakes that they didn't make last year. So I don't know where it is, but they've got to get this figured out before playoff time.
And you wonder, obviously, Joe Mixon didn't really get going in the offense. That was a big key. When Joe Mixon gets going, this offense is dangerous. CJ Stroud turned the ball over a lot. Not to mention a Kaimi Fairburn 28-yard missed field goal that would have given them the lead with 2 minutes left. So, I mean, you name it, it went wrong for them. But for the Titans, I mean, let's just face it, it's just nice for them to win one. Stealing one from Kevin from The Office, let's say it's just nice to win one if you're a Titans fan.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's been a rough season. You're right. It just feels good to get one on the board.
Does for them. So Houston, I'm talking about, still in plenty of control in that NFC South or AFC South, sorry. But we've seen in the past, really the last 2 years, of AFC South teams that look like they're in control of this division, and then they blow it at the very last second. So, I mean, we saw it with the Titans against the Jaguars 2 years ago, and then the Jaguars blowing it to the Texans this past year. So I think the Texans got it, but they got to be ready still. They can't blow many other opportunities. Not to mention, you got the Jaguars this week on the road. That's a must win for you. Then you got the Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, and Titans to end the year. That's a tough finish to the season. And depending on the Colts and what they do, this could be a close race down to the end.
Yeah, that's a gauntlet of a schedule.
Yeah, it truly is. And as far as the Colts, I mean, their schedule, you got the Patriots, you've got the Broncos, you've got the Titans, the Giants, and the Jaguars. So this could set up for an interesting finish in this division. So AFC South could be one to watch for the Colts to come in and just steal it out of nowhere. So something to keep an eye on there. The next one I want to talk about, the Cowboys taking down the Commanders 34-26. Let me just break down the final 5 minutes of this game. If you didn't get to watch the final 5 minutes of this game, you missed out on pure chaos. So it was a 20-9 lead for the Cowboys with 5 minutes left. Washington goes right down the field in about 9-10 plays, scores, gets a 2-point conversion to make it 20-17. Then you got the kickoff to Devontae Turpin, makes one spin move at the 1 yard line, and then takes it 99 yards to the house for Dallas. You think 10-point lead? Oh, it's over. They're good. Then Washington goes down, kicks a field goal, makes a 7-point game, force Dallas to punt. Washington gets the ball back, but they got to go 86 yards in 30 seconds. I mean, with no timeouts, that's pretty much as dead as it can be. And then an 86-yard touchdown to Terry McLaurin for Washington. So you're thinking they've done it. Dallas has blown this game. Washington is going to come back and win it, and they missed the extra point. Yeah, just special teams in general on this day were a disaster for both teams. I believe there were multiple blocked punts, blocked field goals, and to top it all off, Dallas takes the onside kick from Washington back for a touchdown. A 34-26 final here. There was 41 points scored in this fourth quarter, Austin. 41 points were scored. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say about this game other than pure chaos.
Yeah, that's a mess. Certainly going to be some tough work for those special teams guys in Washington this week.
Yeah, same for the Cowboys. Brandon Aubrey had a rough week kicking the ball. But let's talk about it with Washington because now This is their third straight loss. They were off to the 7-2 start. They lost to the Steelers, to the Eagles, and the Cowboys all in one score games. Sitting at 7-5 right now, fighting for a playoff spot. Right now, you're still fortunately the 7th seed in the projected field that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But you've got to get some things figured out. You still got to play the Eagles again, the Falcons again. So really can't afford many more losses if you're Washington if you want to make the postseason this year.
Yeah, but look, this is going to come with part of that inexperience. It's a younger team, and so they're going to have to figure this stuff out as they go. Hopefully, they can make the adjustments. Dan Quinn's certainly a capable enough coach to help this team make the adjustments, but it's a young team, so that's going to be part of this learning curve. They're ahead of the schedule right now, and that's something that they need to remember. Right now, you're ahead of the schedule for a young rebuilding team.
Absolutely. And then for Dallas, I mean, this does nothing then other than ruin your tank. That's all I got to say there.
Yeah.
Um, but they're sitting at 4-7 now. Dak still out for the year. I mean, it really doesn't do much at all. But nonetheless, the next thing I want to talk about, and a rumor that came out, according to Jerry Jones talking about not ruling out an extension for Mike McCarthy in the offseason. Yes, this is not fake. I had to double check and make sure it wasn't fake. Um, but the question is, Austin, if they bring back Mike McCarthy, this just are they giving up? Like, I don't know how else to describe this.
If I'm a Cowboys player and Mike McCarthy receives a contract extension, I am demanding a trade. I mean, you're not
Simple
gonna,
and straight to the point.
yeah, you're just not going to win any games for Mike McCarthy. It clearly he's done what he can do. Clearly, he was an Aaron Rodgers merchant. So it's time to just accept that fact, accept the Super Bowl that you won, Mike, and retire and stop being a head coach in football.
Again, simple and straight there. I don't blame you. The next one we're going to talk about from this noon slate, again, just plenty of dominant from this noon slate. The Vikings escaping Chicago with the win, 30-27. I still can't believe this game got to overtime. Minnesota had the 11-point lead with 30 seconds left, and somehow this game went to overtime. But the Vikings managed to hang on and win. This would be the Bears' fifth consecutive loss. The floor is yours, sir. The floor is yours.
Look, Caleb Williams played great. I'm not going to complain too much. We lost the game to a better team. My big thing is still Eberflus is making some questionable decisions. He challenged a Jordan Addison touchdown just to challenge it. That's basically what he said in the interview. It's just he's such a great defensive coach. He's not head coach material. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But this team showed some flashes. I liked what I saw from Caleb. But in overtime, we saw exactly why this team needs offensive line upgrades. I love Ryan Poles. I love a lot of what he's done for the Bears, but he's got to go out and fix this interior of this offensive line if he wants this team to be good.
Yeah, safe to say that there for the Bears. But they fell just a bit short. They got Detroit, obviously, tomorrow on Thanksgiving. We'll talk more about that game later on. Let's talk about another 30-27 final, and that's the Chiefs escaping Carolina by the skin of their teeth with a 3-point victory on a walk-off field goal. Um, yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say than escape with that because Carolina gave the Chiefs quite a battle.
Yeah, this was quite the game. Bryce Young looked really, really good in this game. I've been really impressed with him coming back since the benching. It's like he's found some new confidence. And the team is finally kind of allowing him to take some chances. Gave the Chiefs a fight. This was a great step for the Panthers, but look, this is the Chiefs that we know closing out the game, no matter how gritty, how ugly. They find a way to get the job done. Good bounce back win for Kansas City.
Yeah, it definitely was for them, and I'm with you. Bryce Young's looked better and better each week since he's become the starter again. So you love seeing it for Carolina. The good news again for them, fortunately, they will have their first round pick this year. So that's a positive for them. So they can get some more help there than just a early than having to trade up into the first round there. That's it for the news that I can think of. Let's talk a bit about a few of the afternoon ones. I hinted at it a little bit. Seattle taking down Arizona 16-6. Seattle now tied with Arizona for first in the division at 6-5. The Niners and the Rams both losing, dropping to 5-6. Again, this division continues to be as close of a race as we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable kind of the way that it is. And it feels like one team's getting hot. It was the Rams and the Cardinals were at top. And now the Seahawks are getting hot again and starting to rise back to the top. So it's interesting to see who's going to finish at the top. But we're far from seeing the final product of this NFC West.
Yeah, to say the least, to say the least. But Seattle getting the win there. Here's my question for you, Austin. Is Seattle good? This is the question I have because you look at the 3-0 start, and then you look at the rough stretch they went through, and now you're getting wins back to back against the Niners and the Cardinals, put you at 6-5. I have no idea if this team's any good. I just wonder if you know.
No, I don't know. I would still say probably not good, but you know, it's still up in the air, unfortunately.
To say the least. And then with the Niners, talking about them, Brandon Allen played with a broken finger nonetheless, so he wasn't even 100% Brandon Allen for them. Um, but here's my question for you: is it time to panic on the Niners just yet, sitting at 5-6? Is it time to panic?
I don't think there's any room to panic. Look, you've had some unfortunate injury mishaps, but like you said, a game back right now in the division. I wouldn't worry yet. I don't think this is a boom or bust year. Look, obviously, this team wants to go to the Super Bowl every year. That's what they're built to do. But I don't think there's any distress, especially with a lot of what happened. Um, Injury has been the big thing for them. So I think you don't freak out, you don't panic, you just hope to get healthy and come back next year. But right now, I wouldn't be thinking about next year. Right now, I'd be thinking about trying to get back in this division right now.
Yeah, to say the least. And then for the Rams, obviously getting blown out by Philadelphia there. They're still alive at 5-6. They still have some games left, but I'm curious right now, and this is the one that you don't have to answer if you don't have it. Based on the top four in the NFC West, if you had to pick one to win the division right now, who are you taking?
Ooh, in the NFC West, if I had to take one team to win it, I do not know. I am gonna say I'm gonna say the Rams. Right now, I think they're the most complete team. And so that's the team that I'm gonna say I think will be the winner by the end of the year.
Yeah, that was literally my thinking as well. So, yeah, no, I think the Rams are the most complete. I think they're the most healthy team, and that's clearly what it takes to be. They just ran into a buzzsaw in Philadelphia on Sunday night, so they're still alive to win this division, host a home playoff game. So we'll wait and see there. And then the last game, Monday Night Football. It was the Harbaugh Bowl. You had Jim and John Harbaugh going head to head, Ravens and Chargers. Ravens coming out with a 30-23 win. Look, we wondered coming into it, what could we see from the Chargers? And I think it's safe to say from them, they're still a talented team. They got a bit of ways to go against the elite of the elite in the AFC.
Yeah, I think this was a good year for them. Um, but what I like is that, they're young. They've still got some ways to go, but now you can come into the off season. They're gonna, be able to maybe recruit some guys in the free agency. You're in LA. You're clearly showing you can win. Maybe they'll obviously attack in the draft. Maybe some trades, but I think they're setting themselves up right now to show how good they can be. And this is a really good campaign for a lot of the best players out there, especially guys in the free agency of what you can do with Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers.
Yeah, to say the least. And then for the Ravens, they get a little get back courtesy of what the Browns did to the Steelers on Thursday night. They're right back in this division race. So they're sitting at 8-4, but they got a interesting matchup this next week that we're going to talk about. But first, We're going to talk about the playoff picture right now. Let's start in the NFC. Obviously, Detroit still the one seed there, so they're very much still in control there. But Philly, the two seed, only one game behind the Lions there. So Philly has looked strong the last couple weeks. The three seed, believe it or not, Austin, it's the Seattle Seahawks right now, who would be the three seed. And then the four seed would be the Atlanta Falcons. That would be your top four seeds in the NFC based on the division winners, obviously. And then your five seed, the Minnesota Vikings, your six seed, the Green Bay Packers, and your seven seed, the Washington Commanders there. So unique in the NFC. Thoughts on what the playoff picture is looking like right now in the NFC?
It really is a shame that Atlanta's not sitting at the 3 seed with like a 3 game lead on Tampa Bay in the division. It's going to be a closer finish than it should be. But Atlanta really, again, cost themselves and a big opportunity when Tampa Bay was down and out. Now Mike Evans is back. Baker Mayfield's playing great, and they're winning games again. Falcons, man, they made this harder than it had to be.
Yes, yes, they did. I mean, yeah, no other way to describe it. In fact, I'll tell you what, if I had to place a bet right now, I would probably bet on Tampa Bay to win the NFC South. I would definitely do that.
I'm with you.
Um, but as far as the NFC, here's my question to you. We talked about how dominant Detroit's been all year. We've kind of been keeping our eyes on Philly and wonder what they could be. Do you think Detroit and Philly are really just they're separated themselves from the pack right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now they look unstoppable. They just look at the top of their game. Obviously, really, it only matters how you finish the season. But with the way these two teams are playing, they're going to give themselves plenty of break, plenty of rest coming into this final stretch here. Yeah, I think right now they're separating themselves and they look like the best teams in the NFC. And everybody else has got to step their game up if you want to compete with these two.
Absolutely. And now let's move to the gauntlet that is the AFC here. So obviously the one seed, the Kansas City Chiefs at 10 and 1, two seed, you got the Buffalo Bills right behind them. If the Chiefs were to slip up and the Bills win, obviously head to head tiebreaker would take over there. Three seed would still be the Pittsburgh Steelers despite their loss to the Browns on Thursday night. And then the four seed would be the Houston Texans. Still, again, that AFC South is kind of all over the place, but those would be your top four seeds in the AFC. Then you got the five seed, the Baltimore Ravens there, six seed, the Los Angeles Chargers, and then the seven seed still hanging in there with a win against the Raiders and hurting Gardner Minshew. Yes, I hate you, Broncos. Let it be known I hate you now for what you did to my hero. You got the Denver Broncos at the seven seed right there. So, thoughts on this AFC? And I mean, just safe to say, I did not have three AFC West teams in the playoff picture at this time before the season started.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's most surprising to me. Is just a few weeks ago, I feel like I was legitimately thinking to myself, is the AFC West the worst division in football right now? I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are at the top, but everybody else is not so hot. But now the Broncos and the Chargers are playing really good football. So I've been really impressed. But these are two solid veteran coaches coaching these young teams in Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh. And this is what these guys were hired to do: take these teams and make them competitors as quickly as possible. So we're seeing the results of kind of that sticking to it mentality for Denver, not giving up on Sean Payton after a couple of years. And with Jim Harbaugh, we're seeing kind of that Jim Harbaugh effect everywhere he goes, instantly turning these teams into contenders. I'm surprised to see this many AFC West teams in, but it makes sense when you look at what these teams have done to better themselves.
Absolutely. That's it for the playoff picture there. Let's now go into game picks. And as you guess, with it being Thanksgiving, we're going to have a lot more game picks than usual. Of course, we're picking all the Thanksgiving games, but a couple of games from Sunday as well. No, we are not doing Black Friday as it's the Raiders at 2 and 9 taking on the Chiefs. Look,
I got the Raiders.
yeah, we picked the Raiders. It will probably be a really ugly game that the Raiders will probably outplay the Chiefs in throughout most of it, and the Chiefs will somehow win. That's probably what happens.
Well, last year the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Thanksgiving in a disgusting, nasty game where Aiden
Yeah.
O'Connell threw like no passing yards.
I think that was Christmas Day, actually. I think that was the Christmas Day one.
Oh, Christmas. Yeah, whatever. Same
Yeah.
thing.
I think that was the last time before the Bills game. That was the last time the Chiefs had lost a game, which is kind of funny when you think about it again, like you talked about with the scenario of that game. Well, let's start 11:30 tomorrow on CBS. The Bears heading to Detroit to take on the juggernaut that is the Detroit Lions here. Obviously, the Bears looking for something positive to happen, and then Detroit looking to continue its rise and stay number one in the NFC. We know you're going with the Bears, but let's talk about it still.
Yeah, I'm a Bears fan. That's why I'm going with the Bears. Look, the Lions are really good. They're probably going to beat the Bears down. But if you think on Thanksgiving I'm going to pick against the Bears, no, I don't want to suffer. I'm already going to be upset when they actually lose. I'm going to take the Bears here, because maybe they'll figure it out, but probably not.
Yeah. Simple and straight to the point there. And there's a tiny part of me that thinks this Bears team could pull it off if it was in Chicago, but it's in Detroit on Thanksgiving. I don't think the Lions are gonna. I don't see it happening. So now let's move to the game that I call the nap game, the game where everyone after eating Thanksgiving lunch is going to be, half awake or falling asleep to this game. You got the Giants and the Cowboys here. Tommy DeVito's not even projected to start, so I don't even have a reason to be half awake for this game. Um, do we even? I mean, I'm gonna pick the Cowboys because it's at home and the Giants are more screwed than they are. I mean,
I'm going to pick a to 10 tie. Uh, um,
I like that.
so I'm going to pick a tie because it can happen in the NFL. So I like
You
a
know
10
what?
tie.
You know what? I'll roll with it with you. I think that would be a fitting result for this game. It would be a fitting result. Um, and then the last one on Thanksgiving, really, dare I say, the main one on Sunday night, the Dolphins heading to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers. Look, Miami's looked red hot over the last couple of weeks with Tua coming back. Green Bay sitting at 8-3, looking to keep up with Detroit and Minnesota, is going down Lambeau Field, and it comes down to the factor again, Austin. Can the Dolphins win on the road in cold weather? We're gonna get to find that out again.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins in this game. I think Tua comes out, slings the ball, and they take some chances. And they come out and surprise the Packers team, who thinks that they might have an easy one here. If this had been a couple weeks ago, I would have taken the Packers in this game. But I like the momentum the Dolphins have right now.
Yeah. I would, but until they actually win a cold weather game, I'm not gonna pick them. I'm gonna pick Green Bay in this one. Um, Again, nothing against them truly. It's just similar to that. I need to see them similar to like with the Georgia Alabama thing. I need to see it happen before I can feel confident in picking it. So, but let's do a couple of Sunday game picks here. The first one, an interesting one of two cursed franchises at noon. You got the Chargers heading to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. An interesting matchup to say the least between these two teams. Uh, Both desperately need this if they want to stay alive in their playoff races, and for the Falcons stay in front in the division. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Chargers. This is a tough game for the Falcons. And when the Falcons had the easy going, they couldn't really get it. Now the pressure's on. I think that pressure gets to them. The Chargers win, and the Buccaneers get one game closer to making this division theirs.
Okay, I'm right there with you. I expect the Chargers to go in and handle this, and yeah, I think Tampa Bay is going to make up some ground. My big thing is I think these are two solid defenses again, but I think this is again coaching with Jim Harbaugh. I think this is where he gets the job done there. Then the next one we're going to pick here, Arizona heading to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. This is an interesting one. Obviously, Arizona coming off the loss to Seattle. What can we expect from them? Minnesota, will we see some Daniel Jones this week? Will it be Sam Darnold? Interesting factors in this one. Who do you like here?
I like the Vikings in this game. I think no matter who plays in this game, they've got the better team overall. Maybe if the Cardinals are coming off a win against the Seahawks, I think they'd have a little bit more momentum. But I think the Vikings are going to come out and get the job done with that solid and fierce defense that they have.
Okay. I'm actually going to take the complete opposite of you. I think after a terrible disappointment against Seattle, I think you'll see the Cardinals play a really impressive game here. I think they're going to come out and they're going to take down Minnesota on the road. Not just my thinking as a whole, disappointment. You had a chance to take control of the division. Now you're coming on the road playing a good team with a good defense. I do think I see the Cardinals winning this game. But let's move to the main afternoon game, and dare I say the main game of the whole weekend. The two best running backs in the NFL going head to head. And I just love that it's running backs being the highlights of this. You've got Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles heading to Baltimore to take on Derrick Henry and the Ravens. Need I say more? This is going to be a fun one on Sunday afternoon. Austin, what are you liking here?
I'm going to go with the Ravens here purely because this is at home for them. I think that's really going to be the big difference. I think these two teams will keep it close, the way they can control the clock, but also both of these teams have shown this year they've got capable, explosive passing games. I think this is going to be a relatively low scoring, close game, but the Ravens are going to be able to edge it out in front of their home fans.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. I think I'm gonna have to go with Baltimore as well. Even though I really don't want them to win, I need them to lose. But I do think them being at home. Also, you wonder. My question with them is Roquan Smith. He was injured last week, didn't play against the Chargers. If he plays, I think it's even more helpful for the Ravens. But yeah, but also we talk about with the running games. It also comes down to which quarterback I trust more in this game, and I'm gonna lean towards Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, some more. Then Sunday night football, you got the Niners taking on the Bills. It's our final game pick here. The Niners just looking for something good. Will Brock Purdy plays a whole different question there. And then for the Bills, obviously looking to keep up with the Chiefs near the top of that AFC. You got a chance to take down this Niners team. Does this Niners team get the upset to happen in Orchard Park on Sunday night, Austin?
No, they're not healthy enough to. If the Bills can take down the Chiefs, they can take down the broken and beaten 49ers. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think they win this game by at least 14 points.
Okay. All right. So for me, I'm tempted to pick the Niners, but I don't know the status of Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. So I'm going to lean with the Bills. Although I would not be shocked if this is a close game. I think this will be a close game if those guys play. If they don't, I don't even know why this game's on Sunday night. Um, but nonetheless, that's it for our game picks in the NFL this week. Let's now dive into our bets of the week. Austin, what do you got for week 13?
I've got one for you. It's a rivalry game. It's a Thanksgiving Day game. It's not going to be a big differential. It's going to be a close game. I like Bears plus 10. I think that's a big spread. I think this game will be somewhere between 3 and 7 point finish.
Okay. I was really thought you were going to say, whenever you talk about the rivalry game on Thanksgiving, I thought you were going to be like, it's a low scoring one. I thought you were going to say the Cowboys Giants under, which I'm tempted by.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, but no, I'm actually picking one on Thanksgiving as well. I'm going to take Green Bay -3 again until I see it from Miami. I'm going to roll with the team that they're playing there in Green Bay. I guess if we got to give one for Sunday, Steelers Bengals over under 48. You know what? Take the Steeler under. There you go. There's you one for Sunday as well. But that's going to do it for this NFL episode of the Bold Take podcast. Again, if you haven't, go give a listen or watch to the college football episode. Again, we really appreciate you all that join us and watch us every single week in the NFL and college football. So make sure to give us our episode a watch there and subscribe to the Bold Take podcast. As you can see here, subscribe. Yeah, just shameless plug there to say the least. But we'll be back at it next week. You know, college football. We're going to be talking conference championships and all the scenarios that could happen. NFL, we're getting closer and closer to playoff time. So we'll have a lot to talk about, especially from that Eagles-Ravens game. I'm excited to see how that plays out. But that's going to be it for this episode of the Bold Take Podcast. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader. We want to thank you for listening and watching. Have a happy Thanksgiving.